helping finish a parsonage for a church of 300 Maya Quechua people. No water, dirt road, holes in the road, rocks in the road, and the Nazarene Church owns that part of the country. We started work there in 1902. Richard Anderson was the first missionary. And they started down at the coast, on the Atlantic coast, at the port city there, because that's where the ship that came on docked. And but they found that it was so dangerous to live there. Not drug gangs, this is 1902. Malaria, yellow fever, and other insect-borne diseases. And some of the early missionaries died from these diseases. And they said, we need to get up to higher country. So they went inland on foot and went up to 5,000 feet high in Coban. And no mosquitoes, too high. Cloud cover much of the time, wonderful orchids, wonderful coffee. And we made our Nazarene headquarters way back in the 19-teens in Coban, Guatemala. And so now we pretty much own about half of Guatemala. In that one government province of Alta Verapaz, we have 1,100 churches. 1,100 churches. We have 120 in our district here. So that's like 10 districts. Now they actually have 27 districts in the country. But we are strong, very strong in Guatemala. And most of our work is among the Maya Indians. There are 21 Maya dialects that the government recognizes. We have work in about 4 of those. And the most recent district that we formed was a linguistic district called Pocomchi. And we have translated the whole Bible into that language. I don't remember, about 2 years ago they celebrated this new Bible, translated by Nazarene translators, not American translators, Guatemalan translators. And so now we have a district of 35 churches in the Pocomchi dialect, and the mother church only has 1,500 members. It's a little church, 1,500 members. God is doing something incredible in Guatemala. But I didn't come to talk about Guatemala tonight. Except I do want to tell you, it leads into what I want to say. 2 weeks ago, when we went down there, we were loaded for bear. We looked like an army on the move. 24 of us, everybody, of course, with their suitcase, and we had 8 cargo suitcases. You all know what that is. It's 4 with medicines, because we're going to do 3 days of clinics, so 5 doctors. And then we had Jesus film, BBS, we had a projector, we had candy, we had, I don't know what all they had. Jesus film, soccer balls. Anyway, we had 8 cargo suitcases, and then everybody had a suitcase, because we had evening clothes, Sunday clothes, work clothes. So it was 24 and 8, 32 check-ins, and everybody had hand carries. So we looked like an army on the move. And we all arrived fine in Guatemala City, and our luggage was all there, none was missing. And so some of the men that help you with the luggage brought over an 8-foot long luggage cart and started stacking all these bags. They filled 2 of them, about 7 feet high. And here we are, 24 of us lined up behind these 2 big tanks out front, you know, the army on the move. And we headed toward the customs officers. Now, you never know what to expect. They have 2 x-ray machines, and you have to put your bags on the x-ray machine, so that if they see anything they want to ask about, you're there, the bag is there, and then they put you over by a table, and they open it on the table, and you stand and wait while they go through it, look for whatever they thought they saw. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at this 2 big luggage carts, and 32 check-ins, and I don't know, 30 or more carry-ons. We got over 50 pieces of luggage. Now, how long is it going to take us to put all these on the x-ray, and how many are they going to pull out? We'll be here all day. A supervisor walks up to us as we're just about to head for the x-ray machine. I was at the front of the line. I was the only one who spoke Spanish. And she had a badge on, and she said, who are you people? See, we all had an identical jacket on. We don't do that to Cuba. We're not advertising that we're there. But in other countries, the East Tennessee district wears identification. It helps in the airports to stay together. So we were all wearing our jacket with our logos on it. So she says, who are you people? And I told her, we're religious, Church of the Nazarene. Oh, she heard about that. And what are you going to do? So I told her where we're going. I told her what we plan to do. Construction, medical, soccer, children. She said, what's all this luggage? I said, well, that's our clothes. We're going to be doing several things, so we had to bring different clothes. And supplies we're going to use for all of our ministry, and a few medicines. And that she perked up. Oh, medicines, you're bringing medicines in. Did I say the wrong thing? I said, well, most of the medicines we bought here in Guatemala, $2,500 of medicines were bought by Guatemalan doctors here to use up there. Oh, that's good, she said, that's good. You spent the money here. So she stopped and sort of put the pieces together in her head. What do I do with these people? And so she smiled and said, follow me. I like that. Follow me. So she turned around and I waved to the group. So we start following her. There's an x-ray on either side, but there's a walkway between them. She headed right down the middle of that walkway and led us right to the front door.
Wow.
And we never took one bag off the carts.
Wow.
Never put one bag through the x-rays. Hit the street and there was the bus waiting for us. Thank you, Jesus. Now that's a precursor to my theme. My theme is, who's in charge anyway? Now we live in the Washington, D.C. area. My wife and I are both federal retirees. I want to ask how many of you get your checks from the federal government. But we worry in this part of the country about who's in charge. We talk about division of responsibilities in Congress and the courts and the presidency and so forth, and who's doing what they shouldn't and so forth and on and on. Who's in charge? They wish they knew. We wish we knew. Well, when it comes to missions, there's no doubt. There's no question. God's in charge. God's in charge. I took a team to Cuba, Havana. We were also pretty well loaded with cargo. Actually, it was a team from this district. Wanda Eaton was the working witness coordinator on that. And she had me go with her for translation and take care of them there in Cuba. And we had a lot of stuff. I know next week I'm going for the dedication of a 250-seat new church that will be designated the Prescott Memorial Church in Cuba, because my father and mother were the pioneer missionaries that started the work and worked there 12 years before Fidel Castro came into the picture. And so they never had a church dedicated to my parents, so the district wanted to do that. So this particular church, it's taken 4 years to build it. They're going to, we have a plaque that we've ordered and taken down. They're going to put it up. Bow and Grace Prescott and family. So I've taken some of the families. 10 Prescotts going down for the dedication next week, and some others who have worked on the project want to go back and see it completed. So we have 21 of us going down this coming Thursday. Anyway, in 2017, I accompanied Wanda, and we had a lot of luggage, including 16 light fixtures to go into the ceiling of the church we're going to dedicate next week. There were about 14 inches square LED. They fit up flat against the ceiling. And we'd spread those in our suitcases. And everybody had one of these light fixtures in their suitcase. In the box that it came in. When they ran these suitcases through X-ray, because in Cuba all the luggage is X-rayed before it goes on the belt for you to pick it up. When it comes off the airplane on those carts, it then comes on the X-ray machine that's on the belt that carries the luggage around. And they look at it. If there's nothing they're concerned about, they just drop it on the belt and it goes on out and you can get it. But if there's something they want to check on, they put a black mark with a marking pen on the luggage tag. And then you can't get out of the building until they inspect it. So you wait and wait. It takes about an hour to get your luggage, while they X-ray all the luggage and put it on the belt, flag it if need be. And they saw these square things in a lot of the suitcases. So they flagged 2 or 3 of us. We've got to see what that is. So they had us get over to the side, let the rest of the traffic through, and they had a bigger machine, big X-ray machine, so like the ones they have in Washington Reagan. And they said, we're going to put your luggage through this bigger machine. I said, oh boy, we're going to be here all day. And who knows what they're going to charge us, what they're going to decide. Interesting enough, they hadn't opened a bag yet. They were going to X-ray it a second time instead. So we're in a line waiting to go through this big X-ray machine. And then, wouldn't you know it, the power went off.
Yeah.
I'm talking about pitch dark, folks. None of this emergency lights on the wall stuff. It was pitch dark inside the airplane terminal. Well, we all stood there. We knew what to do. And in about 15 seconds, the power came back on. Maybe somebody tripped a switch or something. Okay. But that big X-ray machine and its computer had died when the power went off. And the operator was trying to restart the computer, to reboot it. They needed Butch there. But thank goodness they didn't have Butch there, because they fussed with that about 15 minutes while we're standing in line waiting to put our stuff through their X-ray, and they couldn't fire it up. And finally I walked over and I said, sir, I said, you know, we have a bus waiting outside for us. We've been here over an hour. What was it you wanted to see? And I said, well, it's those squares. And I told him what it was. I said, it's no big deal. They cost $16 a piece. They have an LED light in it. No, it's nothing. It's just a little light. He thought about it for a minute. He said, well, I can't get this started. So he said, why don't you just go ahead and leave? And we did. We also found the middle lane and we're out the building. I appreciate the Lord knowing how to depower an airport terminal for 15 seconds. Arrived 3 years ago. You can tell I got airport arrivals on my mind with all this luggage we're taking next week. And I had a windshield for a Volkswagen Jetta for one of our district superintendents. And it didn't have any Cuba, so he found one here in the United States. Donated to us and brand new, and we only thing I could find to put it in was a 65-inch TV box. This high, 7 inches thick, a curvature to it, so it had to be wide enough for the curvature. So here, you're checking in at the counter, here I'm pushing up there with this TV box. And when I tried to check it in, American Airlines ticket agent said, I don't think that's going to fit on our airplane. That won't go through the door into the luggage compartment. I tried to be polite, but I said, you know, I thought about that, and I called and found the dimensions of the door. and there's an inch to spare. She called the supervisor of the loading crew and confirmed that it would fit. So he said, well, send it out. So they did. Well, that sucker got to Cuba. When we came down, came through immigration, came into the luggage area, and I looked, and over there against the wall was this box. It beat us through the room. But then I had to get it out the door. Put it on a luggage cart along with the rest of our luggage. And I'm thinking, well, what's the strategy this time? And then a familiar face walked up. She wears a blue uniform. She's a member of Havana Tour. She was the officer that received most of our teams and was an advocate for us. She and her husband had worked in the Cuban embassy here in D.C. Speaks English, although she doesn't use any of it. But speaks perfect English. Understands it fully. Be careful what you say. And she always helped us and got us out. She, I guess, had a liking for the Nazarenes. So she worked in one terminal, but we were coming into a different one. There's 5 terminals at that area. And so I didn't expect to see her. We got our luggage on the cart, about ready to head for the X-ray. And she walks up. I said, Maria, what are you doing here? You don't work at this terminal. I said, well, I'm here today. She says, have you got all your luggage? I said, yeah, it's all here. We've got it on the cart. She says, well, good. Follow me.
Yeah.
So here goes the blue uniform, and here goes Prescott. Here comes the box, and we're heading across the terminal toward the door. Walked by the X-ray machine, headed to the front door. She opened it and said, hasta la vista. See you next time. God has his people where he needs them. So if you're ever wondering who's in charge, it's God.
Amen.
And missions is his work. We feel possessive about it because we love it, we like to do it, we like to go on trips, and we like to hear about it. We feel possessive. We begin to think it's our work, it's our thing. No. It's God's thing. Why did he send Jesus? To provide a means that all who would believe on him would be saved. And those that don't believe on him, you're lost already, John 3:17 says. So it's very important. We're helping rescue people who are already lost to save them before it's too late. That's God's plan. And we're simply his co-workers, 1 Corinthians 3:9, co-workers with the Lord on his team. And that's a great place to be. I can't think of anybody I'd rather work for than the Lord and be on his team on what he considers the most important thing in the whole world. Giving people a chance to believe on his Son, Jesus Christ, as their Savior. And that's what's happening through Nazarene missions all over the world, 162 countries. I've had a privilege of visiting 67 of those countries through Compassionate Ministries. In 14 years that I worked in that office. And then another, 10, 12 that I've been working with partnerships and the Central America, Caribbean region, and Cuba. Seeing God at work. I've been talking about airport experiences. I'll tell you one more. Sorry. A team from Southern California was heading to Camagüey, Cuba. It's about halfway down the island. A church construction project. And they've been about 3 times. One of the members of the church is a pediatrician, Rene Bravo. His father was Cuban, down from Santiago de Cuba area. And his mother was American. And he's an American citizen. And they live out by San Luis Obispo in Central California. And he was the only Spanish-speaking member on their teams. But he was helping organize this, I think, their second trip. And they're about 3 weeks from going. Bought everything, packed their bags. You know, they were a very organized group. And then they get a message, a text message, an email from the pastor of the church they're going to. And very politely, as all the Cubans do, is that, you know, if it's not too much trouble, and if you can do it, and it's okay if you can't, all that's icing on the cake. What they say is, here's what I need for you to do. You know, but they're very polite about saying it. And you have to sort of read through that. This pastor wanted the impossible. His nephew, about 25, 26 years old, and wife, had one boy who was 7 years old. And he suffered from cerebral palsy. What that means is he, you know, didn't have much use of his faculties, or his limbs. He couldn't control his legs, couldn't control his arms, couldn't control his speech. His parents had to carry him everywhere. The only way they could move him, they had a little old baby buggy that he was too big for, and he got sores from riding it because he was rubbing the sides. And Uncle, pastor of the Nazarene Church, took pity on him and called California, or wrote them, and said, is there any possibility that you could find one of those special wheelchairs for cerebral palsy children? If you're familiar with them, they have, you know, leg rest, arm rest, back rest, head rest. It supports the whole body. And they're expensive. Here in the States, I guess Medicare will probably provide it for you, but they don't exist in Cuba. I mean, they don't exist, period. So it was an impossibility. They couldn't get it there. He had no clue how we'd ever get it there. It's way oversized for luggage. We can't ship cargo for passenger groups. And it just, all the logistics work. And 3 weeks before the trip, and they cost thousands of dollars. So Renee called me and said, Bob, I got this request. I'll send it to you. What do you think? How do I tell him politely, it's too much, you're asking too much too late? And I said, well, Renee, he wouldn't have asked you if he hadn't felt you were his last resort, that there was some possibility that you could do it. I'm an eternal optimist. He said, okay, we'll try. So he got on the horn and started calling suppliers of those chairs. He's a doctor, he's a pediatrician, you know who to call. And he can Google. And he found a dealer about 60 miles away who sells them. And he explained what he needed, and the dealer said, well, you're calling at the right time. I got 3 used ones that were traded in, and I can't sell them. I can't sell them. They're used. Only in America. You know. So the dealer said, if you want one of those, come down and look at it. One of them can meet your need. I'll give it to you. And take the tax write-off. Ready to say that? Give me a letter. So Dr. Bravo took a morning and drove down and took his SUV and looked him over and picked one of them from the picture that the pastor had sent him of nephew, wife, and child. The mother's holding the baby. His legs are hanging down. You see about how long he is. Took the chair back to his office, told his staff to clean it up, disinfect it. Measured it, 4 feet by 3 feet by 2 feet. How in the world? They had to build a box for it, a cardboard box for it. Then they had to call the airline, JetBlue. I only use their name because of what they did. Explained what they wanted to do. They already had their tickets. And JetBlue said, well, it's way oversized and it's cargo. You need it to accompany you so you can get it into Cuba. We'll call you back tomorrow. I don't know who all they talked to. They called back the next day and said, we'll take it. Free. Woo! Free acquisition. Airline will take it, and They won't charge you. Wow. That, at that time, the American planes weren't flying to Cuba yet. So that got it to Miami. But then they had to get it on a charter service from Miami to come up with. So they called the travel agent that had sold him those tickets. And he was sympathetic. He said, well, let me call the charter company and I'll explain to them and see if they'll take them, what they'll charge. So he did. They came back and said, well, it's big, take up a lot of space. We could put other cargo and earn a lot of money with that much space. Okay. It's humanitarian and we'll help out. I guess God was sort of patting people on the head all down the chain. And he said, yes, okay, $200. Well, not too bad, really, considering the bulk. But the travel agent said, you bought your tickets from me twice now, and I'd like to be a part of this. I'll pick up that $200. And he did. He wrote the check and sent it to the charter company. Well, now we got it free into Cuba. But then there's always customs. There's always customs. Well, the team arrived, and the box arrived. It was there. It finally came off the conveyor belt. They loaded up all the luggage on the carts. And the carts are free in Cuba, by the way. You pay $5 to get one. That's one good thing. And Rene had put the wheelchair on his cart. He had the big box. And the supervisor of the custom officials, of the crew that was on duty at that time, walked over to him. Starchy uniform, very military-looking man, and said in Spanish, "¿Qué está en la caja? What's in the box?" Now they knew it'd been through X-ray, but they still asked, "What's in that box?" And so he explained, took out the picture of the boy, showed it to him, told the story. Everybody, the airport froze. Here's the supervisor talking to one of the passengers. So what's going on? They're going to arrest him? You know, what's going on? All the employees had stopped working. They were watching. All the other passengers had stopped. They were watching. The place just froze while Rene explained what they were doing. And the supervisor, with all his employees watching him, leaned over to him and said, "It's okay." And then he quietly said, "Que Dios te bendiga. May God bless you." Now let me put that in context. To get his job, he had to be a member of the Communist Party. He had to swear allegiance to Fidel and profess to be an atheist, because communism is atheistic. He had done all of that to get his job, but here he is, privately, quietly saying to our team, "I'm a closet Christian. I'm with you. May God bless you." God has a way of putting his people wherever he needs them to accomplish his purposes. Who's in charge? God's in charge. A couple of days later, they drove 5 hours in the district bus to deliver the chair. Dr. Bravo cut the box open, pulled the chair out, and had the privilege of picking up the little boy, setting him in the chair. He had shaped it and fit it with Allen wrenches to what he thought would be what the boy needed. And when he set the boy in it, it was a perfect fit. Didn't have to adjust anything. He just left the Allen wrenches with the father. Says as he grows, you're going to have to stretch this up, get the headrest higher, and so show him how to do it. But I love God. I love working for him. You know, he does nothing cheap. He always does more than we expect. Scripture says that. More than you can even imagine. There was a name stenciled in, embroidered in the back of the chair from the first occupant. the first boy who had it. Whose name do you think that was? The boy who's now in it.
Wow.
Two boys had the same name,
No way.
and it came with his name in
Something
it. That's God.
showing off.
That's God showing off. That's God saying, I planned this. I made it happen. I got you free transportation all the way, and you got it free to begin with. You see, folks, you just have to keep moving forward. It may seem impossible. It may seem an imposition. It was. It had every reason to say, not this time, maybe next time. But they didn't. They took the challenge. They said, Lord, if you're in it, it'll happen. And that's sort of my motto. This next Thursday, when I take $3,000 worth of audio equipment, communion set, offering plate, 2 computers, 2 new cameras, and more. 10 bags of cargo, plus 21 of travelers. 31 bags. Split in 3 arrivals during the day, and I come in on the 3rd arrival, so I don't know what's going to happen to the first 2. I won't be with them. I'm trying to prep them for it.
God is with them.
God is with us. He's in charge.
Amen.
Maria will probably be over there and take 1 group through. She may take 2 groups through. The lights may go out. I don't care how God does it. It's His business. This is His stuff for His church and His people. He'll see to it that it gets there. And as you plan your church year, you think of your faith promise for this coming year. Whose business is it? Well, the pastor looks to the NMI president. I was district president for 13 years, so I understand. And says, we need to raise so much money. Well, that's the wrong terminology in my opinion. This is the extent to which we want to co-labor with God and be a part of what He's doing in the world. He might want us to do more or less, whatever. That's our estimate, but the main thing is we want to be a part of what God's doing and move forward with Him and out there touching lives, changing lives, sharing the good news. And tomorrow you'll have an opportunity to put something on this card. And that'll be fun. You're partnering with God in what's number 1 for Him, that the world might know that Jesus is the Savior. That's what it's all about. And what I'd like for you to do tonight, I won't be here tomorrow morning. I'm going to be speaking over at Annandale, Calvary from Virginia, but I'd like for you to do is pray about this. Ask the Lord, Lord, what is it? What should we put on this? And please don't think about it as what can we afford. That's not the issue. God knew where that chair was. He made it possible. The question is, how big is my faith and how big is my pipe? Think of yourself as a conduit, a channel, a tube through which God sends blessing and resources that the work might go forward. So the real question is, how much can God trust us with? I mean, if He sent an unexpected $10,000, would we give it or would we keep it? Would we rush to the car dealer? What can God trust us with? What will He provide? You see, a faith promise is not a pledge. It says it here in the material. It's not a legal obligation. It's really what I hear God saying, I can trust you with this. I'll send this much. Pass it along so that my work can continue around the world. So pray tonight, Lord, what do you want us to do? We'll try to be as faithful as we can with what you send. And many times what we put on this, we really can't afford it. It has to be added resources that God will provide in the course of the year. So our commitment is, Lord, if you provide it, I'll give it. You know, I won't hang on to it, I'll be a pass-through. You send that water, it'll go through my pipe and on out to where it's needed. I won't siphon it off for myself. So the question is, Lord, how much can you trust me with to put on here tomorrow? And I could stand here the rest of the night, put you to sleep, telling you stories of how God has answered that prayer. I'll only tell you one. Just one thing. I was at Faith Promise in some town in central Kansas years ago. And a single mother with 3 kids, barely making ends meet with her job, was at the Faith Promise. And she wanted so bad to fill out one of these cards, but she said, I can't. Every cent comes in is committed. I can barely pay the rent, barely feed my kids, barely keep gas in the car. You know, single mother, they're everywhere. I said, well, I can't tell you what to do. Just all you can do is ask God what He will provide for you, what He wants you to do. She didn't even fill out the card Sunday morning, but Sunday night she did. She filled it out. She put down what she felt God was saying to her. And I got an email from her about a month later in my office there in Kansas City. And she said, Brother Prescott, thank you for your advice. I did put down what I thought God wanted me to put, and I had a clue where it's going to come from. I didn't have it. I had no idea where it could come from. I don't play the lottery, so it couldn't be that. She said, but you know, about a week after the Faith Promise, I got a call from another company that knew about my work. And they offered me a job where I'm earning about 50% more than I made before. And she said, I have no trouble giving that much now. Matter of fact, I'll probably up it. Would that have happened anyway? I don't know, but that's not the question. The question is, she was faithful, she trusted God, and He supplied the need. A little 8-year-old girl in Phoenix, Arizona, daughter of the missions president, sitting on the front row with her mother when I spoke. We went to lunch on Sunday dinner. I noticed that the little girl filled out a card and put it in the plate. And I commented on that to the mother. I said, I saw your daughter made a pledge. She said, oh yeah, I said, I'll take care of that. And I said, no, you won't. That was her commitment to the Lord. Don't get in the middle of that. Don't pay it for her. Give God a chance to build a relationship that'll last her a lifetime. I got a message from her about 2 months later. She and her daughter had been down shopping in Phoenix, walking the streets. And her daughter looked down and saw what looked like a dollar bill on the sidewalk. She picked it up, opened it up, it was a $10 bill. And instantly she said, Mother, there's my Faith Promise pledge. She had pledged $10. I don't know if you're going to find money. I don't know if you have an oil well come in. I don't know if you're going to win the lottery. I don't know how God's going to do it. Just be a partner with God in what He says is number one around the world. And never forget that He's the God who can walk you between the x-ray machines, who can turn off the lights in an airport, who can send a helper to a tournament where she didn't work to get us out. And I can go on. Who can get a chair from California to Trinidad, Cuba for a cerebral palsy boy. We serve a God who can do it all. Let's just be a partner with Him and enjoy the blessings and the benefits. And thank you for being a mission-minded church and going and investing and sacrificing. It's not cheap, it's not easy. I know that. But it's wonderful to be a partner with God. Let's have a closing prayer. Father, we love to talk about you. You're so good. And you're so good to us. And we have the opportunity and the privilege of being co-laborers with you in what's number one for you, getting the word out around the world that Jesus is Lord and Savior and forgiver of our sinful past. And so, Lord, tonight as this wonderful congregation considers their commitments for the next year, the real question is, Lord, how much do you want to do through us to accomplish your purpose in Jamaica and here in this county and who knows where else, what doors you might open this coming year. Father, all we can do is simply ask you, give us direction, guide us, put a number on every respecting heart, and we'll just be faithful enough to put it on paper and see how you make it possible over the next 12 months. Thank you for giving us the privilege of doing that in partnership with you, and we know it'll be good. Thank you, Jesus. In your name.